What's up, fellow pilots? It's Caleb here from Air 101, the channel that talks about the ins and outs of aviation insurance and much more. And today we have an interesting subject. Well, I hope at least it's interesting because we're going to be talking about me, how I became an aviation insurance broker and got my commercial pilot's license. The reason why I wanted to do this video today is normally I'm just giving you heavy information on aviation insurance. But today I wanted to talk to you about how I got my commercial license and how I became an aviation insurance broker and helped so many people get insurance for their aircraft. Now, many years ago, I was 18 years old. I'd already been living on my own for about a year and a half and doing jobs such as cleaning gutters, cleaning London drugs at night, jumping from job to job. And then one day I ran into David Fitzpatrick, the owner of Air One Insurance. I had known him before, but he said, now if you can finish these 15 commercial quotes in an hour and a half before I'm finished watching this movie, then you might just have a job. Okay. There I was, so young, working as fast as I could to make sure that I got this job. And bam, 45 minutes later and I was done. This is how I got my job at Air One Insurance. Then 3 months after this, I ended up dating this beautiful lady right here. This is the owner's daughter, Lori Fitzpatrick. Now 6 months after that, we ended up getting married. And yes, I did get married at 19 years old, and now I was really involved in this company at Air One Insurance. 5 months after working at Air One Insurance, I went and got my level 1 insurance license. And then shortly after that, David Fitzpatrick came up to me and he said, well, since you're working here, why don't you go and get your pilot's license? He said, I built this company on saying to people that pilots should buy insurance from fellow pilots because they know what they're actually talking about. And to be honest, I never really thought about getting my pilot's license before, which is kind of strange because my dad got his license around roughly 16 years old in the 1970s. So then I decided I'm gonna go get my pilot's license. So I started flying once a week, and if it rained, I ended up missing my lesson. And I realized something at that point, that it is really difficult to get your pilot's license only flying once a week, because by the time you end up flying again, you've already forgotten so much from your last lesson and you spend half of the next lesson remembering what you had already learned. After 6 hours of flying, I ended up stopping and getting married to Lori Fitzpatrick, of course, now is Lori Winterburn. But then about 10 months later after that, I got an email from Chris Georges, the previous owner of Pacific Rim Aviation. And this email went something like this. I know, Caleb Winterburn, that you enjoy flying, but remember, maybe just getting your license isn't for you. ... That was the email. And when I got that email, first of all, it made me laugh, but then it also made me angry and it motivated me to go back and start my flight training. So I just want to give a big shout out to Chris Georges for helping me get my private pilot's license. But you need to remember, at this time, I'm only 20 years old and I'm barely making above minimum wage and I'm trying to get my pilot's license. But I end up going back to the flight school with a renewed spirit. So what I end up doing is I end up training roughly 3 to 5 times a week. And Monday was for sure my longest day because I would start flying at roughly 6 in the morning, go till 8, then work from 8 till 4, and then after work go flying from 4 till 6, and then do my ground school from 7 to 10. But by doing it this way, I ended up getting my pilot's license in 2.5 months with just under 50 hours of total time. Also, because I did not have a lot of money at that time, I would go over to Pacific Rim Aviation on my lunch breaks. And I remember sitting in the aircraft, going through my checklist, going through my downwind checks such as primer, master, mag, circuit breakers, carb, hot, etc. just so that I did not waste too much time on the ground, and then when I had my lesson I could actually focus on the lesson and do my flight training as fast as possible. And in 2012 I ended up only paying roughly around $12,000 to do my private pilot's license. Back to doing insurance, in 2013, 2014 I went and challenged all the insurance exams so that I could get my CABE or my management license. I remember those exams were extremely tough, and realistically, although they gave me a lot of good information, they didn't really talk about aviation insurance. They only had like 3 or 4 pages on it, and a lot of the information wasn't totally correct. So I had to learn on the job over the years about aviation insurance so that I could help fellow pilots get insurance for their aircraft. And that's why I just want to say thanks to David Fitzpatrick for giving me this opportunity, as I've had an amazing career doing aviation insurance. Now after this, I decided to go get my commercial pilot's license, and somehow I convinced my wife to fly to northern Saskatchewan, about 3-hour flight north of La Ronge, Saskatchewan. So we hop in a Cessna 172 and we leave BC, fly through Alberta, Saskatchewan, all the way up north. And we end up going to a place called Hidden Bay. Now this is an old abandoned strip, and I had no idea what it looked like. So we end up getting up to Hidden Bay, and we're getting closer to this abandoned airstrip. And I start looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, I think that's the runway. But my wife's like, no, that's not the runway. And I was thinking to myself, I really think that's the runway. And then I realized all of a sudden it was the runway, and my heart is racing because I now realize I have to land on the strip that's only roughly 10 to 15 feet wide, and obviously 4,000 feet long is long enough, but there was so many bushes around it. So anyway, after about 2 weeks of flying up there, I got used to this runway and it became a lot easier. But remember, at this time, I probably only had like 80 hours or 90 hours. So this was a big stretch for a very new pilot. Now, while we were up there, I flew to a lot of different places, such as Wollaston Lake, Brochet, Lac Brochet, Stony Rapids, and then we just camped there. And in total, between that whole time, I flew about 60 hours in a total of 14 days. Now, I just had to quickly say what my wife put up with while we were up there. One day she was looking on the ground and she saw this paw print, and it looked like a wolf paw print. And so I said to her, don't worry about it, it's okay. So that night we're in our tent and I'm sleeping, and my wife wakes me up and she says, do you hear all those wolves around us howling? She says, I'm so scared. And I say to her, it's okay, just go back to sleep, don't worry about it. And then I roll over on my side and I'm like, oh no, we're gonna die. So the next night when we're in our tent, we only hear one wolf outside. And the next morning after that, I wake up and I leave the tent. And when I'm walking outside, I see this man that is near the lake. And about 50 feet away, I see this dog. And so I decide to walk up to this dog as I want to pet this dog. And when I'm about 10 feet away, I begin to realize that this dog is up to the size of my chest. And then at that moment, I realized that it's actually one of these wolves that was howling from the other night. And we just stare at each other for about half a minute to a minute. And my heart's racing. I am thinking, what should I do? Do I run away? And all of a sudden, the wolf just turns away and walks back into the forest. And that was one of my first encounters ever seeing a wolf in real life. One of the reasons why I really wanted to do this trip was I wanted to get some real life experience of flying. I did not just want to stay in BC in the lower mainland and get my 200 hours. Instead, I wanted to go past the mountains over to Saskatchewan and just check out some of these airports that are off in the country so that I could get used to this type of flying and gain a lot more experience. Now, right before I was about to get my commercial license, I remember I was in one of the briefing rooms with one of my favorite flight instructors, but also one of the most strictest flight instructors I ever knew. And I remember him looking at me and he said, Caleb, like, here's a commercial pilot. This is where people need to be when they get their commercial license. Here's a private pilot and here's you. So make sure that you go home tonight, study as much as you possibly can, and work as hard as possible so that you can actually pass your commercial pilot's license. So I worked really hard. I listened to him and I went and did my commercial flight test and got a very high mark because he pushed me so hard, and I really definitely appreciate it. The thing that I want to bring out is, although I didn't use my commercial pilot's license that much, I'm really happy that I went and did, because I feel that it made me a better pilot. Because the thing is, I had only learned so much when I did my private pilot's license, and by doing my commercial license gave me a lot more information. And of course, we probably all remember hearing the phrase, when you get your private pilot's license, all it really is just a license to learn. Now I'm really looking forward to do my tailwheel training, my multi-engine rating, as well as my float rating, and I want to film it so that I can put it on this channel so you can see how the process went. Now, after I got my commercial license, I was 26, and me and my wife decided to start learning Mandarin. We did this for personal reasons, and also I did this because I know there's so many Chinese pilots in Canada, or Chinese people that want to come to Canada and either get their pilot's license or buy an aircraft and do training on it, etc. And I wanted to be able to learn this language to help make the process go a lot smoother for them.
今天我想告诉你，如果你是中国人想来加拿大的话，我可以帮助你买飞机保险，好不好？
Anyways, now I'm 29 years old, and I have had the opportunity to do more than 10,000 aircraft insurance policies. I have been able to help pilots who have had trouble getting insurance for high valued machines, whether they're a student pilot or a low time pilot. I've been able to help them get on such as like $1 million Cirrus or a Cessna 210. And I've also been able to help low-time pilots get on complex machines such as a Citation jet. And when these individuals are actually able to get insurance for these machines and start training on them, this has actually brought me great joy. This is my journey, how I became an aviation insurance broker, a commercial pilot, and how I got to start this channel, Air 101, where I can now pass this information on to you. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and now if you can subscribe to this channel, comment below, and please give this video a big thumbs up. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.